Hello, friends. How are you all? Today, we're going to discuss about public economics. The topics under public economics are the role of government and budget in economy, which includes the instruments and role of budget. We'll also be looking into the theories of government expenditure and revenue, theories of government expenditure, theories of government revenue, and how is the government revenue structure in Nepal. Regarding the role of government in economy, there are three broad schools of thought, such as the classical thought, the Marxist school of thought, and the Keynesian school of thought. The classical thought focuses on the limited role of government. The government should have minimal role in the operations of a nation. The Marxist, on the other hand, believes in unlimited role of government, and the Keynesian advocates for the balanced role of government and private sector in the economy. The classical thought argues that the role of government should be as minimum as possible. They advocate the limited government with limited revenue and expenditure. They suggest the role of government to be confined to maintain law and order, basic health and education, and public goods. However, the Marxist thought argues that for unlimited role of government where the government controls the whole economy, the resources should be owned by the government and every economic activity is controlled by the government. So, the role of the government in the economy is unlimited and is responsible for every economic activity according to Marxist thought of school. Differentiating itself from both the thoughts, the Keynesian thought bridges the classical and Marxist thoughts. According to Keynesian school of thought, the role of both government and private sector in the economy is equally important. If the economy is frictionless or moves smoothly, then the market or private sector can deal with economic issues. And if there is some rigidity or obstacles and crisis in the economy, then the government should take a lead to rescue and revive the economy. Whatever the nature of the thought, in practice, role of government can broadly be classified into three roles. The first role being the allocative role or function. Since the resources are limited, the role of government is to allocate those resources in between government and private sector so as to achieve allocative efficiency and maximize economic growth. Similarly, the government should maintain the concept of welfare state through distributive role or distributive justice in the society. Since everyone is not equally efficient, the market creates inequality. So, the governments implement distributive and redistributive policies and programs to maintain equity in the society. Finally, the other role of the government is the role of stabilizing the economy. The economy is not moving smoothly at all times. There may be inflationary or recessionary pressures in the economy. At that time, the government should stabilize the recessionary or inflationary pressures through countercyclical policies to stabilize the economy. Based on three broad categories of the role of government, the general functions of the government in the economy are to maintain peace and security in the society by ensuring security of life and property, to ensure fulfillment of basic needs of general people, to facilitate and promote private sector for creation of economic and productive employment opportunity, to regulate the market to make the private sector ethically professional, to formulate and execute policies for sustainable development, to coordinate and cooperate with private sectors, cooperatives community, and other development partners to promote economic activities, to formulate and implement distributive and redistributive policies and programs to maintain distributive justice, to protect and promote the national economy at bilateral, regional, and international level, to provide public goods and infrastructure in order to promote economic opportunities, and to protect and promote the culture, literature, technology, and local resources of the nation. Now let us move towards the instruments and role of budget. The government budget is a financial statement of income and expenditure of the government during the given fiscal year. It is an economic, a political, and a legal document that shows the economic activities and targets that the government wants to achieve within the fiscal year. It indicates the economic perspective of the government. It is a political document because budget is a tool available to the government to address political commitment made to the people. It is created only after approval by the parliament made, and so it is a legal document. The government budget is normally made for one fiscal year. It is a tool to execute the fiscal policy of the government. The budget may have a few or many objectives depending on the nature and need of the economy. Generally, a budget has objectives which include increasing economic growth, maintaining macroeconomic stability, creating employment opportunities for full employment, reducing poverty and inequality, maintaining balanced and inclusive development, mobilizing the resources efficiently, creating distributive justice and welfare state. In order to achieve these objectives, government has three major instruments, which are government expenditure, government revenue, and government borrowing. Government expenditure includes or consists of recurrent or regular expenditure, capital or development expenditure, and financial management expenditure. Government revenue, on the other hand, has two sources: non tax revenue and tax revenue. Non tax revenue includes fees, fines, royalties, income from public enterprises, foreign grants, etc. And tax revenue consists of indirect tax and direct tax. Indirect tax includes VAT, customs, excise duties, while direct tax includes income tax, property tax, etc. Government borrowing also includes multiple sources like domestic or internal borrowing, in which the government borrows by issuing treasury bills or bonds. Borrowing can also be from the central bank, that is Nepal Rashtra Bank. The government can also borrow from enterprises like Citizen Investment Trust, Employee Provident Fund, Social Security Fund, and the like. It can also choose forced lending or borrowing to the government, which means the government compels institutions or even the public to borrow certain percentage, let's say to the banks. Banks must provide or lend certain percentage of their deposits or certain percentage of their lending to the government at times of need. Borrowing can also be foreign or external borrowing, in which the government issues treasury bills or bonds in the foreign market. And the last type of borrowing includes borrowing from development partners such as World Bank, Asian Development Bank, International Monetary Fund, DFID, USAID, Indian government, Chinese government, or other governments. Okay, friends, this much for this video. Let's now revise what we just studied. We studied the role of government and budget in economy, in which there are three broad schools of thought. The classical thought, which advocates the limited role of government and the government should be as minimally involved in the economy as possible and should let the economy work based on the market forces. Converse to that, the Marxist theory advocates that there should be the role that is unlimited in the economy. It means that all of the resources of the economy should be owned by the government, and every economic activity, from what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, everything should be determined by the government, and nothing should be left to the market. The Keynesian thought, however, advocates that there should be neither very limited or minimal role of government, nor there should be unlimited role of the government. It advocates that the government should have a balanced role in the economy. It bridges the classical thought with the Marxist. According to that, the government should leave the economy to the market forces or the invisible hand until and unless there is some friction in the economy or intervention from the government is actually required, such as the government should intervene when there are market inefficiencies like cartelling, syndicate, exploitation of consumers, when too much of income inequality has consumed the economy. In gist, while the classical and Marxist thought believe in extreme cases, either limited or unlimited role of government, the Keynesian thought advocates for a balanced role of both the government and the private sector, and the goal is to run the economy as efficiently as possible. Whatever theories the schools of thought may advocate, in practice, the role of government is divided into three major roles. The first one being the allocative role, where the government has to allocate resources between government and private sector so as to achieve allocative efficiency and maximize economic growth. Then the government has distributive role, where it should maintain the concept of welfare state. Since everyone is not equally efficient, it becomes the duty of the government to implement distributive and redistributive policies and programs so that the huge gap between haves and have nots is not further enlarged. Finally, the stabilization role of the government suggests that whenever the economy is going through inflationary or recessionary pressure, or whenever there is imbalance, that's why the government should stabilize the economy through counter-cyclical policies to stabilize it. Based on those three broad categories of the role of government, the general functions of the government in the economy become maintaining peace and security by ensuring security of life and property of the citizens, ensuring fulfillment of the basic needs of general people, facilitating and promoting the private sector to create economic and productive employment opportunities, regulating the market to make the private sector ethically professional, formulating and executing policies for sustainable development, coordinating and cooperating with private sector, cooperatives, community, and other development partners to promote economic activities, formulating and implementing distributive and redistributive programs and policies to maintain distributive justice, protecting and promoting the national economy at bilateral, regional, and international level, providing public goods and infrastructure to promote economic opportunities, and protecting and promoting the culture, literature, technology, and local resources of the nation. To fulfill these functions, the government can utilize the instruments of government expenditure, government revenue, and government borrowing, which are collectively covered by the budget or the fiscal budget. The government budget is a financial statement showing income and expenditure of the government during a fiscal year. It can be called an economic document, a political document, or a legal document too. It is an economic document because it depicts what the government wants to achieve in one fiscal year, which may be to maintain inflation at certain percentage, to maintain forex reserves for certain number of months, to achieve an economic growth of certain percentage, and the like. It is a political document because that is the proof which the government formed by taking the votes of the general people that they have chosen the right candidate and to build upon the trust that the people have shown on them. And since the budget needs to be passed by the parliament and legally binded, it is a legal document. The budget is prepared generally for one fiscal year and it has the objectives to increase economic growth, to maintain macroeconomic stability, to create employment opportunities, to reduce poverty and inequality, to maintain balanced and inclusive development, to to mobilize the resources efficiently, to create distributive justice and welfare state. And in order to achieve these objectives, the government can use the three major instruments of government expenditure, government revenue, and government borrowing. Government expenditure includes recurrent or regular expenditure, which are used to conduct the day to day administration of the government, like the salary of the government employees. Another is capital development expenditure, which includes expenditure on projects of infrastructure development, like construction of roads, bridges, communication, transportation, and the like, and financial management expenditure, which includes payment of interest or paying back of the loans or borrowings by the government. Government revenue includes non tax revenue and tax revenue, where non tax revenue is received from fees, fines, royalties, income from public enterprises, foreign grants, etc., and tax revenue is received indirectly from VAT, customs duty, excise duty, and direct tax from income tax or property tax. The government also does borrowing to meet the expenditure requirements, like borrowing through issue of treasury bills or bonds domestically, which is called internal borrowing. It can also borrow from central bank. It can borrow from public enterprises. Forced lending or borrowing can be another option. Foreign or external borrowing. Borrowing by issuing treasury balls, bonds, or bills in the foreign market. And borrowing from development partners like World Bank, ADB, IMF, DFID, USAID, and foreign governments. This much for today. Tomorrow, we'll be discussing about the theories of government expenditure and revenue.